scandals, and the answer is obviously this is Stephen Harper's fault. So the liberal government is not serious, and well, they're just not interested in actually solving problems. They're just trying to throw political mud around. Honestly, it's very strange. Premiers are pushing back on Trudeau's GST holiday, and that's interesting. But we're going to start with the riots that happened last night in Montreal. So there was an issue that happened in the Middle East. I think it was the International Criminal Court said that there was an arrest warrant out for Netanyahu for genocide or something to that effect. And so people who are in Montreal started losing their minds, I guess. I think the two things are related, but I could be off on what the inciting incident is in Montreal. But there was an inciting incident, and then this happened. So Dahlia. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Montreal. Dahlia says, absolute bedlam in Montreal. Police were warned for days, weeks, more than a year. This was preventable, and right now it's escalating rapidly. Good night, Montreal. So the Freedom Convoy never did anything close to this. And yet, I don't think there's going to be one mischief charge out of all of this. What's going on? This is happening last night in Montreal. I hope it's not too loud. So they're out there chanting away, and I don't know what they're chanting about. There you go. Here's Montreal is showing off the strength of diversity tonight, says Cat Canada. 30 seconds of riots. These are agent provocateurs. These are not normal people who are protesting for, sane things like men shouldn't be in that woman's bathroom and we'd like you to teach, our culture, please, to our children in school. This is not how Canadians protest usually. These are agents provocateur who are making whipping the crowd up and then inciting them to do all of this crazy stuff. And the crowd showed up, and they're open to doing this crazy stuff, right? But this is not typically how Canada protests in my 40 years of living in Canada. I've only ever seen this in the last few years. And occasionally G20, or was it G10 in Toronto? I think it was G20 when Bill Blair was the police chief, and they kettled all the people, and people showed up in black outfits, and they were torching police cars and everything. It made it look like a war zone, right? They're doing that here. And it seems familiar in that way. But again, you don't see this when Canadians protest things. You see this when there's agents provocateur who are trying to sow chaos. So chaos? Sorry, everyone. Cat Canada says radicals are setting cars on fire in Montreal tonight because of something that happened that is happening overseas. Shut down immigration now, normalize deportations. Canada never used to be a breeding ground for foreign conflict riots. We're actually actively importing the foreign conflict. It's not good. And again, people are kind of muddy on what is exactly the inciting incident here. Like, I don't know if there's something specific that happened, because like the Netanyahu thing happened a few days ago. It wasn't like yesterday, and then the Montreal riot happened. So I honestly don't know. So apologies that I'm not 100% aware of the whole context of this. I usually do like to give you context. That's what I've sussed out so far, but we're all learning here. Kirk says Islam and commies are destroying places in Montreal. The scum have been doing as they please in Canada for over a year now, to barely a response by our authorities and politicians. But if you honk and stand up against tyranny, then you get charged like Pat King did. What a backwards clown country, right? So Paul Champ is saying the court found the convoy's horn honking was malicious conduct designed to harm people of downtown Ottawa. But this riot here, wow, that's very muddy. We're not sure if the property damage here is rising to that same evil standard of the convoy honking, right? Obviously, honk honk is the same as Hail Hitler. No? Ridiculous. And I don't think that. I'm rehashing the absolute insanity of the convoy and the response to the convoy, instead of having a look inward and saying, what did we do wrong here to incite this situation? They just branded them as terrorists, right? And invoked Hitler, no less, right? Like, holy smoke. Right Blend says Montreal is totally out of control with pro-Palestinian far-left rioters smashing up the place. Given Pat King's mischief verdict today, surely we can expect the harshest penalties for everyone rioting in Montreal. Do you think so? Because I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be any penalties. I don't think that they've issued one mischief charge last night in Montreal, right? Melissa Lanceman says complete lawlessness in Montreal as the pro-Hamas terror mobs emboldened by the Trudeau Liberals destroy the Prime Minister's own hometown. Rioters on a violent rampage and not a single word from our government. Well, he's busy. They only act when you disagree with them. Bring back law and order, safe streets and communities in the Canada we once knew and loved. Hope the concert was good. So Justin Trudeau is at a Taylor Swift concert in Toronto. The Eras Tour, of course, if you've been in Ontario at all, and you've turned on a radio at all, and, you know, I get in the car and the radio's on, and sometimes I leave it on, whatever. But the advertisements are unending. It's like, don't forget to wear your mask was during 2020, right? It's like, oh, the Eras Tour. Do you have your Eras Tour tickets? Don't get scammed by Era Tour tickets, people sellers on Kijijis. Get your Era Tour tickets here, right? And I mean, I think it's sold out or whatever. Again, I liked early Taylor Swift. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. She's an obvious propagandist at this point. She's obviously being propped up by the powers that be. She endorsed Kamala Harris. How much did that cost the Kamala Harris campaign, right? How many millions of dollars did that cost? So all of that stuff stacks up to no wonder our prime minister is hanging out at the Taylor Swift concert while Montreal burns. Eva Chippick says Montreal is on fire and Justin Trudeau is dancing to an American teeny bopper who's 40. Right? Or she's like 31 or 32 or 33. I don't know how old Taylor Swift is. I don't care. There's something off about all that whole thing. Anyway, Bradshaw says Trudeau and his priorities in order, though. He's dancing away like an imbecile. And like, it's fine to be a goofy dad, right? Like, it's fine. Goofy dads are like my bread and butter. I do dad jokes because, like, I get why dad jokes are a thing now, right? Because the kids don't understand the context, but the jokes are hilarious. Anyway, regardless, I don't mind the goofy dad shtick. But if somebody texts you and says, hey, there's riots in Montreal, yo, you should probably deal with that, right? And I mean, like, I don't like Justin Trudeau at all, whatever. But there are reasons not to like him outside of the family man thing. Like, you can go to a concert and be silly with your daughter. That's fine. No problems about that. I understand. I got it. But holy smoke, right? Like, you use the War Measures Act on protesters who disagreed with you, but you're allowing pro-Hamas rioters to burn down Montreal while you ignore your phone in a concert. Nobody could come over to you and say, sir, check your phone type deal. It's a very concerning situation. And so Justin Trudeau is terrible, awful, and he should figure out, well, I mean, he shouldn't be in the leadership position of the country, period. But that's well established, I think. Here's Pierre Poilievre. He says, violent mobs riot and rampage through beautiful Montreal, typifying the chaos that is engulfing our once peaceful country after 9 years of Trudeau's radical divisive agenda. Trudeau fiddles while Montreal burns. He's actually just hanging out at a Taylor Swift concert. I don't think that he's got the ability to fiddle. It's quite technical and, I don't know, difficult. There's no frets on a fiddle, as far as I know. Maybe there's frets on a fiddle. There's no frets on a violin. I've got to find out if there's frets on a fiddle. Hold on. I double checked. No frets on a fiddle. Okay. Here's Eel, and she says, horrifying today, students at Concordia University stormed a building and began violently breaking down doors. These are domestic terrorists. There's no other way to describe them. Yep. I would agree with that. And I don't think anybody should be allowed to be doing any of the things that we're seeing happen here in Montreal. And I don't know what the balance is, because I think that you should be allowed to protest, and I think that you should be allowed to express your displeasure. But I don't think that this, like with the umbrellas and the fully covered faces and the violence, et cetera, the implication that if you disagree with them, they're going to mob you, they're going to use sound machines to harm your ears, all sorts of crazy stuff that go well beyond what I think when I think of peaceful protest, right? And like, they may be walking here, but the implication is not peaceful. And like the smoke bombs and other trappings tell another story that's not peaceful, right? And so there is a balance, and I think that it can be struck, but we are not seeing that balance in action here at all. Eva Chippick is responding to this. Compare the situation where individuals were charged and sued in a multi-million-dollar class action for peacefully protesting at the Freedom Convoy with the protest below essentially setting Montreal on fire. Now explain to me how we are not living in an upside-down world run by ideological and entitled children. Canada deserves better, way better, a whole lot better. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable what's happened. Like jaw-droppingly unbelievable what's happened in a very, very short time. And I think it's only a matter of time before it touches all levels of society. Maybe Poilievre gets in and changes things before that really takes hold. But I mean, if you've got kids in school, you're being touched by this right now. There's nothing planned at all for Christmas in my kids' schools. And they get their nose out of joint if you ask, what are the activities specifically for Christmas? I asked them, what are the activities specifically for Remembrance Day? What are they learning? And specifically for Thanksgiving. And I know that they weren't doing anything for Thanksgiving because Truth and Reconciliation Day has taken over Thanksgiving. But the Christmas thing, they got really upset about. And really upset about, like, they didn't want to talk about it on email. Can we talk in person, please? Not even phones, person. Because teachers are getting fired for this kind of stuff, right? You can teach kids to play Hanukkah songs on a recorder, but you can't do a Christmas activity in the classroom. Isn't that weird? Don't you think that's weird? Don't you think that's cultural genocide? If you take children and you put them in a school system and you don't let them out of that school system and you don't teach them their culture, but instead teach them another culture, isn't that what the residential schools did or were accused of now? And isn't that exactly what the schools are doing now? It's ridiculous. Anyway, back to this. CBC News says Pat King, a key figure. He's not a key. He was never a key figure. He was a road captain. Pat King, a key figure. And people wanted me to be a road captain. People called me. They wanted me, like people like I didn't know really, called me to say, hey, you should come. Like, it's going to be super fun. Everybody's going to be there. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like super fun. If I can make it, I'll make it. And like, my thing is in my studio, right? Here's my studio. I'm in my garage. It's a little cold. So I've got my winter layer on, right? But I do my reporting from here, right? And Greg goes and does his on the scene stuff and Right Blend, and there's a whole bunch of them who do their on the scene stuff, but I've not done a lot of on the scene stuff. Like, I've been doing this since 2018. There was one time I went to Andrea Horvath because she was actually in Guelph and near a place that I like to go to lunch sometimes. So she did a little thing and it was like 10:30 and I said, oh yeah, I could do this. So I asked my friend if he wanted to go and we went and it was fun. And I asked her a question. That was the one and only thing I did. And I didn't even actually record me doing it. I just did it because I was interested in her answer. It was about sanctuary provinces. And I said, what does a sanctuary province mean? And she couldn't answer my question because she was trying to dodge it. I digress. I don't go places, but they wanted me to go to this Ottawa thing. And I was like, it seems like a trap. Like, this seems very trappy to me. Anyway, Pat King went. He was a road captain. And I'm not saying that anybody offered me road captain, but they were like, you could help organize. You're in Guelph, right? People are going to be coming through Guelph. You could help there. I was like, I don't think so. I'm not very close to the 401. Nope. And so like, it was a whole thing where there was the assumption that I wanted to help and they were like, oh, we've got a place for you. And I was like, I don't know about that. So it's a very, very concerning thing that CBC is imagining this big role for Pat King, because I don't know that he actually had a big role. From what I understood, it's not a big organizational role to be a road captain, right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's more than your average person, but like, they wanted me to do it. Not exactly, but right? Like, the implication was, if you can help, right? And most people do that, right? So anyway, Pat King, a key figure in what became the Freedom Convoy protest that paralyzed downtown Ottawa. In early 2022, has been found guilty of 5 charges against him for his role. So how much time in jail is he going to get, right? Republican Canadian Girl says Pat King is facing 10 years for 2 counts of mischief, but the Indian man who raped a 16-year-old girl and told the judge he'll happily continue to assault women only got 2 years with parole. Canada's fine legal system. So we've got the Freedom Convoy, who a road captain, Pat King, is looking at 10 years. And these guys, oh, that's Justin Trudeau. And these guys who are rioting in downtown Montreal, not one of them is looking at a mischief charge. There are people dressed all in black trying to break windows and all sorts of other stuff. Nobody cares about that. But Pat King gets to jail, right? And they're probably going to throw the book at him. And I hope that I'm wrong about that. But it doesn't seem like there's the public interest that has Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. They're going to try and throw the book at them too. They're going to try and give them 10 years. Like, they've given 6 years to the Coots guys, right? And what are we going to do about that? Doesn't seem like anybody's interested in doing anything about that. Danielle Smith, the Attorney General of Alberta, nope, nothing. Nobody's even interested in changing the judges, looking at the letters, nothing. So it's very concerning. Stockwell Day says Trudeau will arrest Netanyahu, maybe the worst betrayal of an ally since another Liberal MP or PM sent Jews on the St. Louis to their death. He says Canada needs a principal leader who tells Islamic influenced ICC that we will always retain our right to decide on ICC rulings. I just think it's interesting. This happened. Trudeau said that if the ICC issued a warrant for the arrest of Netanyahu, and Trudeau said if Netanyahu shows up here, we would allow him to be arrested. And again, I don't know that this has anything to do necessarily with what's happening in Montreal, but it's interesting. The whole history seems fully reimagined. And if you're not on board with the current modern version of what history is, instead of understanding the previous history, like things that happened before October 7th, who funded Hamas, and so on and so on and so forth, you're going to be locked into the narrative that they tell you, right? And so I just think it's very, very interesting how Trudeau is virtue signaling. It speaks to how many people Canada's imported from the Middle East, that Canada is now saying, yeah, we'd arrest Netanyahu. And there's a big response, and there's a whole rabbit hole to go down, and blah, 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 blah. And I've been staying away from reporting on Israel, Gaza, all of that kind of stuff, because it seems like a distraction. But I wanted to mention this seems there's people trying to make big political hay out of this, and I thought it kind of fit there. So I mentioned that it happened. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about the GST rebate, or the GST holiday that the desperate Liberals are trying to push through. And the reason that they're trying to push this through is now you have a stake in it. Now you want the House of Commons to come back so the Liberals can give you that tax break, right? Before you were on, like the population. Before the population was on Poilievre's side, they wanted the documents. So there was a reason for them to support Poilievre, and they were saying, why can't you just give up the documents to Liberals? And now the Liberals are saying, listen, we want to pass a tax break for you that's going to hit at Christmas time, and we know that you need it. And so we have to have the House of Commons open in order to pass this thing. And so the Liberals, this whole tax thing is in response to the House being shut down. The House is shut down, and so they're giving you a monetary incentive to get on their side with regards to the House shutdown. And that's what they're hoping to do with this GST tax break, okay? And it's not about affordability. Here's Doug Ford talking about Ontario, and Laura says, new statement from Ontario Premier Doug Ford's office about Prime Minister Trudeau's $250 relief checks and the GST pause. Quote, Ontario has already eliminated the provincial portion of the HST on children's clothing, shoes, diapers, books, newspapers, and qualifying food and beverages. This is on top of the $200 taxpayer rebate, plus the gas tax cut, the scrapping of the license plate sticker fee and tolls, and saving transit riders up to $1,600 each year with one fare. The best thing the Liberal government can do right now is ditch, or at the very least, pause any hike in the carbon tax, which is set to increase for the 6th time on April 1st. So that's a refocus to the carbon tax. And I was talking about this the other day as well. GST is a tax that a lot of people are used to because it's been around for so long. It was supposed to be temporary to pay for the first Trudeau, but it is not temporary because they haven't repealed it. And now they want to give us a temporary holiday on the GST in order to implement this new carbon tax and make it palatable. Don't worry, you guys will make more money next year, so you'll be able to pay this carbon tax. Huh? Like, no thanks. I don't want to pay the carbon tax. It doesn't do a damn thing for anything. It's not environmental or helpful. It's harmful for the economy, inflationary, and bad for the country. So they should stop it. Bad for poor people, bad for everybody. Duncan says the Prime Minister personally met with Premier Susan Holt days ago. He didn't think to give her a heads up that he was about to blow a $62 million hole in her budget. Or, equally plausible, was the decision on the GST holiday taken in such a panic that it wasn't even thought of 10 days ago. So Adam is reporting that federal tax holiday will cost New Brunswick $62 million in lost provincial revenue, and its provincial HST revenue, Premier Susan Holt says her government wants back from Ottawa. So Susan Holt saying, hold on a second, we don't have the money for that. I've got washrooms and things to open up for predatory men who want to engage in going into them and stuff. And that costs money, right? Like, So she wants her money back. Brian Lilly says, this man is a dangerous economic illiterate. Remember in 2021 when he said he didn't think about inflation, and inflation, he says he doesn't care about the economy. And he says, let the bankers worry about the economy, right? And like, isn't the prime minister's job to make the economy something that the population is benefiting from, right? Here we go.
We're focused on Canadians. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy. We're focused on building opportunities for kids in a fundamental way, being there to support families, because an economy works when families are confident about the future.
Really? And the economy's faltering badly. Here, this is smart. Pierre Poilievre is quick, okay? When you're on the spot like that, sometimes, and a lot of times, if somebody asks you a question, you answer the question. And politicians instead answer the questions that they want to answer. But this one it's very Tai Chi-y. It feels very much like moving and using their momentum against them rather than meeting it with equal or overpowering force, right? He flows into the answer and it works really, really well. So again, credit where it's due. This guy's smart, quick on his feet. Okay. It's rare in politics to see somebody who can move that fast mentally. Here we go.
I wonder what message you're sending to Canadians, Mr. Poilievre, when you say you're all about axing the tax. You're all about bringing taxes down, making life more affordable. And in the same breath, you say you're not sure you're going to support a tax break for Canadians at a time when they're struggling so badly.
Why are they struggling so badly? It's been 9 years that Trudeau's promised to make them better off. And here we are. You're right. They are struggling so badly. And I think your own words are a condemnation of his track record, with food prices rising 37% faster in Canada than they have in the United States, just as the carbon tax came in. Housing costs doubled. Here we are in Toronto, where you have to earn well over $200,000 to afford a home. That was never the case before Justin Trudeau ran money printing and immigration out of control, before he built up all these bureaucracies that block home building. Clearly, Canadians are struggling. Justin Trudeau is the problem. He's not the solution. What we need is a common sense plan for permanent tax cut.
So it's interesting, right? Like, she was asking him about, not supporting the temporary tax cut, and he turned it into a stump speech. And like, that's good. That's good politically. If you could do that kind of stuff, you should do that all day long, right? And it was on topic, and he actually brought it back to the question that she had asked and said, I don't support. But it requires a little bit more explanation, but he's saying it should be a permanent tax cut, not a temporary one, right? Like, that's the argument. I don't support this temporary tax cut. It should be a permanent cut. We should axe that tax, the carbon tax, and probably get rid of the GST too, right? And again, I want to say I don't support Pierre Poilievre or the Conservatives, but if you're that quick on your feet, I like Canadian politics. And an example of somebody who can outsmart the press, like, she couldn't even run cover. What she said was enough. He turned it around on her, and it made it a condemnation of Trudeau's policies for 9 years. And she was trying to say, well, don't the citizens deserve a tax break? And he's saying, yeah, because Trudeau's terrible, right? Like, it worked really well. So good for him. Like, honestly, good for him. I don't know that I would have been that quick on my feet. So here's Brian Lilly. Here's a longer clip of Trudeau saying bankers worry over the economy. I don't actually want to listen to Trudeau, but if you do, link is in the description. Sheila Gunn Reid says Trudeau's government is already booking hotels for U.S. asylum seekers. So they're anticipating an influx of asylum seekers from the United States when Trump takes office, and they're already booking hotel rooms. I don't think that we should be spending any money. I think could we pass a law? Would it make sense to pass a law? Because I think before it seemed obvious that governments shouldn't spend money to put foreigners up in hotels. Like, in 1999, if I said to somebody, do you think the government should spend billions of dollars to put up foreign illegals who cross our border illegally in hotels? I think my friends would say, like, no, dude, like, that's a terrible idea. Why would the government do that? The government would never do that. And I would agree with them, right? Like, the government would never do that. Why would they do that? Except that they're doing that now. So should we put a law on the books that says a government won't actively commit treason on the taxpayer by using taxpayer dollars to put up illegals in hotels? Like, should we go that far? I think probably it would be a good idea. Like, step one, in Ontario, no taxpayer dollars, federal or provincial, can be used to house illegal migrants for any period of time ever at all. And any politician who proposes it will be removed from caucus immediately and lose their seat. Like, yeah, no, it's treason. It's treason. It's treason. I don't think there's any other justification for it, right? Like, we have a border. If they cross it illegally, they should be arrested and deported because they're crossing the border illegally. And you can say, oh, they make themselves legal when they ask for refugee status. Okay, change that. We're done with all that. Done. Stop. Nope. No more. Can't do it. Obviously, that's a flaw, a loophole that needs to be closed, a bad, ill thought out part of the bill that wasn't the intention of the bill. So we'll get rid of that. And bingo, bango, bongo, you're done, right? Like, so as of November 18th, 2024, the IRCC has leased rooms in 11 hotels in Ontario, including 2 in Windsor. IRCC currently has 421 rooms leased to accommodate migrants in Windsor. 420 rooms, 21 rooms. That's a lot of rooms. And daily, how much do those rooms cost? Monthly, how much do those rooms cost? It's a lot of money. It stacks up quick. Why are we giving that money to foreigners for nothing? Doesn't make any sense at all. Here is Radio Canada CBC, and hold on, I'll see if I can translate it. This is the CBC Radio Canada piece. Migrants and Americans are getting information about immigration to Canada ahead of the Trump presidency. While the future of the American presidency threatens to expel millions of immigrants in a regular situation, right, CBC? Asylum seekers and even Americans are worried. They make calls and send email messages to inform themselves about the conditions of immigration and work in Canada. The Americans, some of whom live in border states, have learned about moving conditions to Canada, according to Google research. A peak for this research was on American Election Day. We receive calls every day from the United States from refugees or asylum seekers who are afraid of the harmful consequences due to the ascension of President Trump at the White House, explains Joel Etienne, a lawyer in immigration law. According to him, Haitian refugees want to know if Canada is able to protect them. I think Haitian refugees can go back to Haiti because I don't have any apartment buildings that I want to give them or anything like that. So bye-bye, guys. Nope. See you later. The concerns do not come only from asylum seekers, especially Haitians, adds the lawyer. We also receive calls from American citizens who are afraid of this regime. They would also like to know if there are opportunities to come to Canada as a permanent resident. Well, I'd like to know if there's opportunities to go to America as a permanent resident. Americans want to know how easy is it for them to continue to practice their profession in Canada once they cross the border, he specifies. So I think it's more propaganda, right? Like, Americans, very few Americans by percentage, I would say, are calling Canadian lawyers to find out about, how can I move to Canada? I don't believe it personally. Although, maybe, like, there are a lot of celebrities who say they're leaving the United States, and it's funny more than anything else. Like, I don't really believe that. I don't believe that your regular everyday person would follow through with it. And the celebrities actually doing it it's just kind of a funny show to watch. Like, they're meant to be influencing other people, right? But most people don't have the capital resources to do that. It's like a generational thing. Like, if you do that and you go to a country that doesn't speak your language, say, then you're politically isolated. Like, you are not somebody who can participate in the political system. You're not somebody who can really have a say in the future of the country. Your kids or your grandkids might, but are you willing to trade that just because Trump gets elected, or just because you don't like the politics currently? A lot of times, like, you can fix it. It takes 10 years, but you can fix it, right? Like, it takes more than 10 years, maybe sometimes too. So, but it seems unlikely to me. And it seems like there's more going on there too, but it doesn't. And it seems like a propaganda campaign that pushes, like, oh, we're going to leave because of this Trump guy. It's the same thing as everybody leaving for blue sky. It seems contrived and bullshit. And, like, it's funny because it's like watching a kid say, I'm going to run away. And you're like, all right, kid, have a good night. See you later. Well, when you get cold and frightened, you'll be welcome back. Like, see you later. Right? And they don't actually follow through because they have no idea what the hell. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful